This is what we're making tonight. It's not hard, it's easy. It was just a matter of being patient. All of it comes together pretty easy. All right, hey, I am getting ready to do one of my weeknight meals. And I'm about to do something you may think is like, wow, that's strange that he's doing that for a weeknight meal. But trust me, if you do it the right way, this easy weeknight meal is actually one of the easiest of them all. That's the reason I do it. All right, so I've got some delicious meat here. I've got some potatoes and other seasonings, and I'm gonna make a delicious pot roast, mashed potatoes, brown gravy. It's all gonna be fresh and homemade. There's a couple of ways you can do this. You can do it in a pot like I'm doing it, putting it in an oven, or if you want, you can do this like in a crock pot. I had some folks asking me for, hey, give us some good crock pot meals. And I thought, okay, this shouldn't be a problem. Instead of doing it just this way, I'll explain how you do it in a crock pot. Same exact method, the same way I've set this up. You set your crock pot up, and I'll show you that here in just a second. You put the meat in the crock pot, put your seasonings in there, put the right amount of liquid, cover it, turn it on low, go to work. Okay, you just let the crock pot do its job, okay? And that's what those are for. They're slow cookers, and they're meant to be used all day. Later on, when you're home, then you have your meat sitting there ready for you. You simply take the meat out, you make your gravy as you're cooking your potatoes, and in a moment's time, with very little work, you have a delicious meal. This is easy and fun, so come on over. Let me show you what's going on right down here in this pot, and well, that way I can get back outside and finish doing what I'm supposed to do. Oh, forgive the rough look. Hey, it's a weekend. I wasn't planning on doing a video, and I thought, what the heck, since I'm doing this anyway, let's just put it on film. After all, this is the way I cook for me. So, cool stuff, come on over. Now, as you can see, I have a beautiful cut of beef here. This is a simple cut of chuck. All right, you don't have to do anything fancy because this is something that you're, again, going to be cooking for a little while. Now, I'm doing this as an easy weeknight meal, and I'm starting my meat at just right about 4:30. Now, I'm planning on eating in a couple of hours, and that's about how long this takes to cook, about 2 to 2.5 hours. Well, if I put this in there, set my timer for 2 hours, and at the end of that start cooking my potatoes, well, these are going to take 15 to 20 minutes to cook, and when I'm finished cooking those, I will run them through a mill. So we're going to have fresh homemade potatoes, and the gravy is just too easy. You're going to really enjoy that. So what I've put in here, I put my meat in here, and that was after putting olive oil in the pan to give it a nice coat. Nothing will stick. I put the meat in here after that, put a little bit of Worcestershire sauce in there. I would say about 1/4 cup, covered the meat well with it, then hit it with some salt, hit it with some seasoned pepper, and that was all except for some wine I put in there, about 3/4 cup of white Zinfandel. You don't have to put the wine in there, folks. You can add a little bit of fruit juice if you want, or you can use like a little non-alcoholic wine. Also, you can just use plain water. There's other things that you can add that bring in flavor. You could also put beef stock in here. It makes it much richer. Now I'm wanting kind of a light brown gravy with this, and it's going to give it to me this way. And the acid from the wine and from the Worcestershire sauce is really going to help perk up that brown gravy and make it special. This just needs to go in the oven. I've got it set for 350. Pardon the noise there. The oven is at 350. This is all ready to go. Let's see, I bought my Worcestershire, the wine. Oh yeah, I did add about 1/4, maybe 1/2 cup of water in there. I wanted the water halfway up on the roast. 350 degrees, 2 hours. All right, pot roast in the oven. It's no more difficult than that. Now, the next thing, I've got these potatoes, all right? We're gonna take the potatoes, we're gonna make good with them. Okay, so you can see there's not a whole lot involved. A little bit of cooking oil, Worcestershire sauce, salt, some seasoned pepper. I have some potatoes here. I'm going to turn these potatoes into my mash. Now what I do is when I buy bags of potatoes, I pick out the smaller ones, the runts, the ones I don't necessarily want to bake. And those are the ones I'm going to peel and turn into mash every single time. So that's how I divide up these and keep my potato costs really low. Neat thing to do here, when you're making potatoes like this, you're doing a mashed potatoes, if you own a food mill, folks, that's the way to go. And that's what I'm going to show you tonight. I'm going to be peeling these. I'm going to boil the cubed potatoes, and then I'm going to run them through a food mill. That's a few hours from now, so I'm like in no rush. But sometime during that time, I'll peel them and put them in water and let them sit in the water until I'm ready to bring them up to a boil. That's all there is to it. All right, we have a timer running on the meat. I just need to go and enjoy life. So I'm going to be peeling these. I want to go ahead and just cube them up and put them down in water. And I like to do that ahead of time, hey, mostly because it just gets it out of my way. And this is already done. So when it comes mealtime, I actually have less prep at that moment. Okay. And by the way, this is the kind of thing that can be done the night before. You can peel this, cube these, put them in water if you want, and then pull them out the next day they're ready to go. If you want to do that, that's up to you. So your way and whatever suits you, and enjoy it. By the way, I would like to mention this same exact way of making mashed potatoes can be done with the peel on. So if you prefer it that way, go ahead. I'm showing it this way because I want folks to realize you can, make this multiple different ways. But I want to show you the way you get a really top-end, quality, restaurant-grade mashed potatoes, all right? It's worth its weight in gold when you do it the right way. And people, when they try this at your home, they're going to be surprised. They're going to say, how did you get it so light? How did you get it fluffy like that? And it's going to be like your little secret if you want to keep it. Otherwise, I would recommend sharing this video. That way everybody gets to enjoy. Alrighty. I'm fighting a sore back also. So, typical after a work day. Nothing too unusual. I don't want too much to do here. It's one of the reasons I really like this meal. So as you see, I'm just sitting here cubing these things up and not making any major thing about it either way. They don't have to be perfect. You're going to mash them, all right? You just want everything, for the most part, to cook as evenly as possible. And that's kind of what I'm going for. That piece needs to be smaller. There we go. I decided for myself I was going to go ahead and do this early and just let the potatoes soak. And this is something I commonly do. The potatoes do really well after they've been soaked, and then you cook them down. And besides, it just gets this out of the way early. Now also, if you want the flavor of garlic in your mashed potatoes and you want it fresh, go ahead and take 1 or 2 cloves of your garlic, peel them and throw them right in this and boil it with the potatoes, and then you're going to run it through the food mill with those potatoes also, and you'll get a wonderful garlicky mash. All right, I've got my potatoes here on the stove. They are soaking. I'm going to ignore them for a while as my beef cooks. It still has 1 hour and 50 minutes of cooking before I begin the boil on this. And that's also dependent on your roast. Some roasts might take 3 hours to cook. Consider that, all right? And make plans for that. Now, also remember, if you're using a slow cooker, when you got home, your roast is ready. I have come to that moment in the cook where it's time to get everything, there we go, get everything put together, okay? Now, I've got an extra pot here. This is for my gravy. I've got my potatoes back here. You've seen that already. They've just been sitting there. An extra platter back here to put the meat on. Here I have prepared, there's some plain clear water. There's a little bit of flour here. Less than 1/4 cup, more than 1/8, whatever that is. Okay, so in other words, 1/4 cup shy of a tablespoon. A shaker, okay, something to mix the water and the flour together. And here I'm going to forewarn you, don't ever shake together flour and hot water, because if you do, the flour expands, the top will pop off and it's going to spray hot flour water everywhere. So don't shake hot water and flour together. That's just flat stupid. All right. Have something to shake it in. Have our seasoning back here. I've got some salt, the Worcestershire sauce. I've got a little MSG because I like that on my potatoes. All right. It really brings out that potatoey goodness. And I'm going to be cutting up some butter here in just a minute. I need to start the potatoes. Now, in case you're wondering, oh, that was the front burner. In case you're wondering, the roast has been cooking now for about 2.5 hours. There's been no rush on this. This is, for me, this is actually a Sunday. I've just finished working out in the yard. I didn't do anything today important, except this. And I wasn't planning to do this. I just decided, hey, I was going to cook a pot roast, and I thought, oh, what the heck, I'll set up a camera. So now you see it the way I just do life, okay? I put my food mill together. A food mill, one of these guys. It's got a little paddle in the bottom of it if you've never used one, and it pulls the food under and shoves it through this little sieve, and it gives you a perfect quality whatever. It works the same way that, here, one of these. Oh, it's a little bit dirty, but it represents. This is what they call a ricer. You put your potatoes in there, the plunger shoves the potatoes through the holes at the bottom, and it gives you a fantastic mashed potatoes. This works exactly the same way except with a rotary paddle. All right, and it holds a lot more. If I'm doing one serving, ricer's great, food mill for everything else. Okay, so I've got that started. I need to get the, oh, I know I had this down for a reason. I need to get my roast out. Now I also cut up some carrots and I threw them in the oven in an open pan. And that was about an hour after this started, okay? So what I want to do here, a beautiful roast. It's gorgeous. I'm going to take the roast out of this, put it on my platter, and pour everything into this. If you want, take a closer look. Come on. Okay, now we're cooking with gas. So I've got a very hot pan here. Don't want to touch that sucker. I have back here a fork and some tongs. I'm going to use the tongs and the fork to get this roast out of here. I'm just going to set it on that platter back there. Need to put my juices in here. Now, if I'm worried about what's in the juices, like I've cooked carrots and all that other stuff with it, I'll run it through a strainer. Otherwise, like today, I don't care what's in here. It's going to be part of the gravy, and that's just the way it is. Okay, and that's the way I do home cooking right there. Right there. Beautiful juices for this. Here we go. I'm going to get the meat right back in here. I'm going to put this in the oven. Now, I'm going to put the lid on it. It's going to give me some browning. I need to mention, if you leave the lid off, you get more browning. You might try it both ways. Try it first with a lid. All right, carrots are looking good in there. I need a flame under this. All right, so I have this heating. When it comes to a boil, I'm going to mix my water with my flour right there. And then I'm going to pour it in here and let it expand and thicken that up. All right, so that's how I do that. Now, if you have an issue with, let's say, gluten, all right, don't use the flour. Just take some water, about a half a cup, and mix in about 3 tablespoons, 2 to 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. Once that's fully dissolved in the water, cold water again. Cornstarch doesn't like it to mix into hot stuff. Mix it in cold water, and when you pour it into the hot and stir it in well, it's going to thicken it right up. So you can do cornstarch or flour. Either works. I decided this time I would do flour, since lately I had been doing a lot of cornstarch. All right, it looks like that has come to a boil. So I'm going to pour some water, anywhere from 3/4 of a cup to a full cup. That was about 3/4 of a cup. And we'll give it a shake. All right, now drain off what got up in my cap. There we go. And I like doing that little shaking method when it comes to this, the flour. It just mixes together so very easy. All right, that was about half of it, or maybe slightly more. Poured it in there, stirred it in well, let it come back to a boil. When it does, it's going to start thickening, and we know if we want to add more. It's just that simple, okay? And it's the same exact way if you're doing the cornstarch thing. So folks, do it that way. Enjoy cooking in this style, okay? All right. Now what I'm doing here, trying to break this butter up, I want to use a lot of butter in my potatoes. I want a really super buttery mash this time. So I'm using a little over a half a stick, about 3/4 of a stick of butter. That's a lot of butter for the amount of potatoes I have. I think it'll be good. Now I'll say this, when you're making gravy this way, let that sucker boil, okay? The flour has to cook off its flavor, plain and simple. You're gonna have a raw flour flavor to it if you do not do this. The other thing that you wanna do is once this is boiling and it's starting to thicken up a little bit and you have all of that adjusted, taste it. If it's flat tasting, if it needs a little salt, add salt. If it needs a little bit of acid, put in some more of that Worcestershire sauce and it'll bump the gravy right up. It'll taste delicious. All right, now, not as thick as it could be. I'm gonna go ahead and put the rest of my thickener in there. Let it do what it does. All right, this has thickened and it's boiling. I'm cooking off that flour. This has come to a boil, it's cooking. When it comes to a boil, it's usually 15 to 20 minutes in the cook. I have a count up timer that I started about 5 minutes ago when it came to a boil. And in about 15 minutes, I'll test those. Here's how you know. You take one of the potatoes out on a big spoon. Push the fork into the potato. If it breaks open easy, it's ready to be turned into mash. If it sticks onto the fork and you have to scrape it off, it needs to boil a little longer. That's how you know if your potatoes are ready. Okay folks, time for us to test our taters. It is 15 minutes now. So, I'm gonna go at it right here. Now what I wanna do, as I mentioned before, just wanna pull out some tater, okay? Stab it, okay? See how my fork stuck to that? That one broke open, that bigger one. Oh, there it goes, it broke. Do it again, one more. Yeah, that's breaking right open. See that? That's what you're looking for, and that's your gauge, your indicator, whether or not they're ready. So all I have to do here, this is cooked, okay? My brown gravy is cooked. It is delicious. I've given it plenty of time to simmer, the entire cooking time of those, so they reduced a little bit. Now that gravy is ready. This is ready to go at it. So what I want to do is switch these out, turn the front off, turn the back off. Here's how this works. I want to take these to the sink and pour them through this. I'll come back over here, put my butter in, salt, whipping cream, MSG, and we're going to mill it all right through the mill and back into the original pot, okay? So use your food mill the same way you would a colander. Saves you cleaning one item. All right, there it is. I'll make sure that's hanging on there the right way. Take my butter, throw it right down in there. Okay? A little bit of salt. I'm going to put it in about a half a teaspoon. 1/4 of a teaspoon or less of MSG if you want to use it. I just use a very light dusting. It doesn't take much. It really works on potatoes so well. And I'm putting on there about 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup of cream. Now, I want you to see how quick this goes. Alrighty, so here we are. As you can see, that didn't take just a whole long time to get those first ones down through there, did it? Now at the very end here, you're going to have a few that are going to be a little bit stubborn. It's not a problem. It will push them right through that sieve. You just got to give it a moment to get it done. How's that for pretty easy, huh? Did you ever think that mashing potatoes would go that fast? Now, I know you haven't seen what's underneath it yet. You want to see that. We'll get there. There. Get that one bit out from under there. It's fighting me. Okay, there we have that done. Get under here. And there's our mashed potatoes. At this point, all I have to do, any cream or butter in the bottom, finish mixing it in, and the mash is done. Do not over process this. Don't turn it or work it or put it in any kind of other machinery. In other words, don't put this like in a mixer and try to work in a lot of cream to make it soupy, because right now it's at a perfect state. It will not get better. So we got perfect mash. We've got gravy in the oven as a roast that's ready to go. Everything for this meal is completely made right there. Well, there's our timer. It's just now hit 21 minutes. It's still counting up, but the whole thing has not really taken that long except for the roasting time. And that wasn't such a big deal, all right? I was off doing some other stuff, taking care of business and letting my roast take care of itself. Now I'm going to pull stuff out of the oven and get my plate assembled. Okay. The roast is finished. I had also made some extra item there. That's some carrots. I just sliced up carrots, threw them in a dish, added olive oil over the top, a sprinkle of tarragon, some salt, and that was it. I just let it sit in there and roast for about 45 minutes. Now, time for my meal. Okay, so I've got a lot of really hot stuff going on here. I'm going to be careful handling things. Pardon me while I make a mess. All right, so I have this beautiful roast down in here. And look, I just pulled out a big chunk of it right there. Easy, coming apart. Isn't that beautiful? That's the way we want our meat, literally falling apart. Okay, because I want to put that on this plate. I want to break it apart a little bit. And look at that, I'm doing that with the tongs. I don't have to use a knife. The meat is just that soft, buttery, soft, and tender. Ooh, nothing like a braised roast. One of my favorites. Now, other goodies. I'm going to want mash on there. I always like a lot of mash. I'm a mash eater, let me tell you. I like my mashed taters and my beef. I'm just one of those Texas guys that like that, okay? And I got a spot over here for my, oh yeah, carrots. Remember, when you pull stuff out of the oven, it's hot, so you got to be careful. All right. Oh, that looks beautiful. Those carrots are so soft. I can feel them. They're very tender. The aromas that are coming up right now, the aromas are wonderful. All right, folks. Now, that wonderful gravy we made. Oh, here we are. This is where it matters. I make that nice little well for my potatoes. Oh yes. And of course, plenty of gravy over my meat. Just can't have enough of that, let me tell you. When it comes to good stuff, the meat juices turned into a thick sauce, that is a hard number to beat right there. Folks, this is a great meal. It's delicious. Please enjoy yours. I'll sure enjoy mine. Now look at this. Isn't that gorgeous? We just finished putting that together. It didn't take a lot of work. And folks, you have one of the most rewarding meals you're ever going to enjoy right there. Oh boy, let me tell you. The perfect roast. The best mash. Man, I can do that mash all day. This wasn't hard at all. Really easy. And when you try it, oh man, I love roasted carrots. They taste so good. It's so easy. Cut them, throw them in a pan, let them cook. Not hard. Enjoy this meal. Thank you so much for watching. Please look in that description box. That's where the links are for my recipes. For S.A.Trotter.com, that's my website where I sell my recipes and other merchandise for this. So please take a look. I really appreciate you watching this. Enjoy my weeknight meals. They're what I do. Okay? You saw it. This is my weeknight stuff. I'm going to enjoy it. I hope you do too.